You have audio.
All right.
July 4th, 2022, in Highland Park.
I think we've all learned something important here today.
Took the lives of 7 people.
The important thing that you all learned was that Cool Frog is awesome and that you should subscribe to his channel. Don't forget there's a live show tonight. If you're available, if you want, you can always hit me up. We'll throw you in stream if you're interested.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to try to, I think we might go that long, so I'm going to try to send everybody over there after we're done.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, bro. Thank you.
All right. Yep, you're very welcome. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thanks. That's Cool Frog, everybody. Here to save the day.
Later.
All right. So where were we? Cool Frog. That's why they call him Cool Frog. He's cool. All right. Let's just start right here. What do you say? Yeah, there we go. Let's start right here. There is some like music in here. I'm like copyrighted, I'm sure. I know I've been fighting the copyright battle a little bit too. All right, here we go. This is the intro to the off the first video released in this series, and this will give you the background, and then we can talk more.
July 4th, 2022, in Highland Park, a shooter on a rooftop took the lives of 7 people in what seems to be a common and predictable occurrence in modern-day America. But this shooting didn't follow a typical formula. In fact, it is the investigation of this case, which took myself and a team of people 5 weeks to wrap up, which fundamentally changed the way I looked at these shootings. Now, people often ask me, isn't there anything we can do to at least prevent these tragedies? I believe the answer is yes. And it all starts right here in Highland Park, a shooting marred by incorrect information, political bias, a nearly unprecedented cover-up, and a trove of online clues leading me on a scavenger hunt all across the web, hunting for the motive. After 5 weeks of investigating, I believe I found it. This is where everything you think you know about mass shootings in America flips upside down. It's time to wake up.
Alrighty, so I'm going to stop it for a second. Let's kind of stick to the commentary parts, but for the most part, I just kind of wanted to give everybody a preview of that and kind of get us all on the same page. So is that new to anybody, or is everybody following it, or what's the consensus on that? I am watching. Oh, more volume on the video? Steel? Okay, Tam's watching it. Okay, Nacho Kitty new? Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah, okay, cool. So we got like a couple people who haven't seen it and a couple people that have. Oh, hey, what's up, Fearless? How you doing? Awesome, glad you made it, man. Turn that up a little bit more. All right. What is this, democracy? All right. So yeah. So you kind of get the background. She's done a lot of investigation. One of the things she was able to do was get ahead of the curve and actually pull in all of the scrape all of his social media and like pull in as much stuff as she could about where he was on the internet. And she's a detective, so I guess she has like training in all this. But so a lot of times what happens is when these cases, right, everything gets scrubbed out before people can get hold of it, so they don't have a lot of background on it. And let's see. I'm going to show a couple examples of that at the tail end of it. But the crazy thing is that the impression that's left, like for the general public, we saw kind of like, and even though he's guilty, like very guilty in this case, right? Kyle Rittenhouse had the same kind of like, just a bunch of bad reports go out, and that left an impression for years about him and about the situation that pulled people in a certain direction into a certain type of belief system that they had this entirely different picture in their head about what happened. And luckily through the trial that got exposed. but it still continues. And you have to ask yourself, how long has this been going on? How many of these things have happened and the same process unfolds? That we never get the real story. We only get the narrative parts. And how quickly is it really being turned into that? Well, we all know they want to turn every shooting into a lone shooter situation, right winger guy. That's like the ultimate optic story right there for them. That's what they want to everyone to think in America is going on. However, what if something else was going on? Something that starts on the internet and ends up in some kind of weird, life-altering situation, and where a break with reality happens in a very short period of time, and then horrible things happen like this. What if that's what's been going on the entire time? Now we know that there's different flavors of this that we've seen ourselves, right? We can point these things out. Like we've seen the Whitmer type of, setup. We've seen the underwear bomber type of setup, the shoe bomber type of setup. The oh my God, I'm just like laying out the wrong words, right? I'm not used to like living in a censored little area, but what if all of them had some kind of like backstory that we just never get, and that the pivot to gun control and gun laws, while we all kind of see that for what it is, and maybe it's not as intentional as it could look, but what if that was also covering for something else, like was preventing people from getting to the bottom of things, the root cause issue of what happened with this individual. And it's wild because I've been watching here, let me find it while I talk. I've been watching this new trial. Well, not new, it's actually a couple of years old, the incident, but for some reason it's been showing up on the Law and Crime stream. I think they've done some kind of like, they wanted the grand jury to reinvestigate it. It has to do with the I'll show a little bit of it. The Lori Vallows, what's it called? What's his name? Daybell and Chad Daybell case, right? And this is a case where this lady kind of just like changed within a short period of time by getting into this guy's books, right? And so she started reading them, became a fan, I guess. And from what I can tell so far, yeah, definitely, Tam, for sure. The you did mail to this dude? What dude? Hold on. What is that? I gotta do this because I see everybody else doing it. Hold on. Dude, look at that. I can actually put comments on the screen. So what's dude? Is it this guy right here? Chad Daybell? Really? No way. Ooh. You want a link? Do you have any good stories about it? Oh no. Oh, to Robert Cremo? What years was that? What years did you deliver mail? Yeah. Like before the shed was in the front yard or after? In a full kit? Oh, and really? So recently, so tail end of things. Okay, so you have a good perspective on like what was going on with him right before all this happened. You're going to be really interested in this series then, because it goes back beyond what we were even told, right? And it explains like this difference, like this split that happened. Oh yeah, yeah. He would just do that all the time. Yeah, it's usually not a good sign. Wearing that around and just on a day-to-day basis. You don't need to. Yeah, but I think that's one of the important things we can really get out of this is that we need to know the signs of a break like this. Like, what are the things that happen, and like not blow it off and blow people off over things. It's easier. So many people just turn their back or walk away when people change. They don't understand it. It doesn't like they could have been their best friends, but they don't think past the whatever's irking them about the situation. They don't think, oh, I don't want to be associated with that person because of this. But you don't really know what's going on with them. And so many times those people turn out to like that guy, See, let me see what this says here. Oh, he was driving his hoopty in full armor and shit. Dude had 1,000-yard stare shit going on. Yeah. House had a lot of packages arriving. Wow. But yeah, so you saw the shed up close, huh? He built a wooden shed and he lived in the front or backyard. And it was like, just a basic box made out of wood and no electricity and no plumbing, which, hey, what's up? Add, okay, there we go. Which kind of like, kind of reminds me of the Unabomber kind of guy, right? It was like a rejection of kind of modern luxuries and comforts, and that turn was like different. That's one of those points that he kind of changed on. I guess in a way, he built a shed and lived outside. A lot of the signs were kind of there, but that's wild that you delivered mail to him. That's crazy. If you ever think of anything else that comes to mind or sticks out about it, and please let us know. That's awesome. Yeah. So the crazy thing is, like in this case, right? Let me put this on screen. All right. Okay. That should be it. All right. So let me find it. Go here. Okay. So this case right here, right? I was actually going to earlier. Okay. This lady right here, Lori Vallow, Daybell, because she remarried. She married this guy. Crazy story, right? She was a good mother, good wife for many years. They were Mormons, I believe, and they she got into this other dude, this guy's book. Like I guess he was kind of like a little spiritual, or he's a little also religious at the same time. And something about it just like drew her in. It was like, in the words, I guess, were speaking to her at that time. And trying to find if I think I had a tab. Is this it? Okay. I think I had a tab with all the books saved. Let me just find it. Okay. I could close that. All right. Might be down here. Anyways, so I looked at these books. I hadn't started like really digging into them, but see if I can find it. I might close that tab. Oh well. Anyways, let's do this. He he somehow like he ended up killing his wife, right? And then marrying her 2 weeks later, and then her 2 kids all of a sudden went missing. And earlier, I want to say it's her ex-husband was shot in the face by her brother in a dispute. So that was, and there's like a lot of weird background to that too. Like, they were a little too close for brother and sister. But but that's the story, right? But she just like broke about the same time frame it took about the same time frame for her to break completely too, with her reality and just follow this guy, as it did for Robert Cremo to break from his, very active online life and skateboarding and trying to be a rapper, and to breaking into this person who was, on the edge and eventually went over. So there's a lot of similarities in the pattern, right, of this 3 to 4 year period to completely change somebody over. In the second video of the series, gotta stop that. I wasn't gonna play any of it. I just wanted to show you guys like what it was. And the second chapter of the series, and Bullet's and the work she's doing, she goes over and kind of hints at this influence, like the number 47, right? That's tattooed on his face. Let's see if I can get a picture of him. Let's just do this. Okay. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. There he is, right here. Oh. All right, there we go. Like right here, this is number 47 tattooed. I'm going to show you like a report, like where this was kind of all taken out of context and a little bit misleading, just from laziness, really. But she found out that what that number really meant, and it associated to this rapper. He's a rapper. He was into this other guy that was named Steels, who eventually ended up killing himself. And again, like followed that same pattern of like, everything was going his way, actually doing really well. And but he wasn't like of age yet. I think that kind of held him back a little bit. But he went off the deep end too. And instead of killing other people, he ended up just killing himself. He thought he was going to evolve, I guess, or what? Yeah, evolve or ascend, I guess, better word. So again, there's this pattern of influence that happens, and I think that there's I've said it before. I think there's like a perfect kind of formula that happens with people, that they become very malleable in a certain sense. Past problems, maybe rough childhood, but they are drawn into this belief system, and then they are pulled deeper into it, and then this is the part where it gets a little fuzzy, because this is the part where we really got to kind of figure out what's going on. But the fact that when these things happen, the media narratives pivot so fast to an agenda, these kind of details get covered up. That's why I think the work that BxBullet's doing is really important, and people need to see it, because when you peel back that layer and understand that, hey, by not knowing the entire truth and by them scrubbing all the information, we can't see past the narrative to see what really happened to this guy, right? And if it's an important thing, if it's a one-off, or if it's something that's going on in a lot of different places, what if all the things that we've been seeing over the years kind of connect back in the same way? Maybe there's different types of paths or avenues that create different results. Maybe in some cases, they don't work as planned, and you get suicides instead of mass killings. I don't know. A lot to learn, but it's just like whenever I see a pattern like that, I want to kind of follow it and see what's going on with it. It's really interesting, because it kind of like takes the whole idea of these events and puts it in a different light. But I think the one thing, if anything, people can get out of it is the fact that the media really, like the way they're doing things and the way we allow them to do things, it's causing a lot of more damage than just, losing someone's trust, right? Let me stop sharing that guy's face for a second. All right. So yeah, I highly encourage everybody to watch it. You'll enjoy it. She does a really great job editing it. Music choices are awesome. Really talented, but also, there's a lot of work behind it. And I think that it definitely deserves consideration. And I think the whole story is intriguing enough that the last two, you'll be excited to see them, right? What's going to happen next? It's done really well. So definitely check it out. And I did put the links to both of those videos in the description of this stream. So definitely check that out. Anybody want to ask any questions about this? What do you guys think? I'd like to hear what you think. Yeah, and the second one does get better. The story just gets more and more intriguing. Okay, so yeah, she really does. I mean, it's like, okay, you could think about this in like a 2-year kind of window, right? That's why I was talking to her. I said, think about this in a 2-year window because the trial for this guy isn't for 2 more years, right? So this information's out, and the truth of the matter is because she got ahead of the game and gathered the information the day that it came out, right? She had that information to research where most people don't. So there's like the chance of anyone kind of catching up to this level of research on this case is, at least on a non-authority level, they will, it'll be really hard. Definitely be really hard. Like, kind of like the that Umbrella guy, he got ahead of the game and on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, became an expert on it. So, right now it's a couple thousand views on these videos, but by the time that trial rolls back around, it could be quite a bit. And maybe it'll help. Hopefully it'll help kind of like not let the truth get buried underneath a narrative based on an agenda. And that more people can kind of like be more, they'll know to be more cautious about kind of just buying these initial stories that are coming out. Like they should know that by now anyways, but so here's one of the reasons why here. Let me show you a couple of different ones, examples of this where I didn't have this one up, where people have taken the initial narrative and with it and what that ends up looking like, right? This guy up. Let's see here. Right? Yeah, it is crazy. That's the whole thing. It just got swept under the rug really fast. And that's the whole level of intrigue there because, in my opinion, like whatever at the bottom of this, right, there's probably going to be handling going on, whether it be an intelligence agency or someone associated with that level of control that's going on. But I kind of just assume that then work back. I'm more interested in like what the entry points are and how people fall into these holes. Maybe it's not as complicated as it or hidden as it seems, right? I think that with like lady buying a book and then latching on to somebody who's cult leaderish type, that can happen easily. But it just kind of like luck of the draw, I guess. And others are like, maybe they just circulate in groups and recruit, kind of looking for that one type. And she has more stuff coming out about that too. I know a little bit of it. I don't want to talk too much more about that because it hasn't been released yet. But there is some, there is some evidence to that in this case that she'll probably be talking about in the next video or two. Let me try to find this guy. Okay, do this. I'll show this part. So this is a guy, right? And she's actually covered this too, but I thought it was really interesting. I'm not going to go into it deeply, but I just want you guys to kind of like, so there we go. So I just want you guys to kind of see that, you should go watch this video after you watch the first two of hers, right? Just to kind of like really get the example of what the idea I'm talking about is. Here we go. Let me do this, share. Actually, I was going to have a really smooth stream tonight, but when OBS didn't work with StreamYard, like now I'm winging it again. All that prep work. Okay. His name's Dr. Grande. I think that's how you say it. It looks like this guy I used to play in a band with. Kind of weird. So anyways, he did this whole rundown, right? He did it like right after it happened. Like, oh, it was like right after it happened. So everything he's going by, and this little rundown he's doing, where he's like calling things out about him and then saying this is why because of this. It's all boxed within a 3-year time period. So he doesn't have any information to go backwards on, kind of see where things changed for this kid, right? And why he went this far, you know? The thing is that he basically is taking the initial reports and then some details the sheriff has released since. Very small, broad, criminal, investigation level details. And then making this final assessment of this guy's mental condition. And now when you watch her videos where you have the whole picture in mind, you get the details from the past, you kind of know more about him, you know about his rap career, what he was doing with that, how that music changed over time. It's just really more detail that you have to work with. Your brain can see more, right? Then the questions become, well, why did he change so quickly, right? Well, that's not something that that the media asked. They didn't care. They just wanted you to think that he was a lone dude, total break, right wing, and that just happens every day. So we can't explain it. But I think when you look at the fact that there's a distinct pattern going on with like these breaks and how long they take to kind of work on people, maybe some faster than others, that it's definitely worth looking deeper into and trying to figure out why, because it could happen to someone could be right next to it one day and not realize it. And that's the real crime that goes on with so definitely watch this video after you watch the other two, because you'll get a kick out of, like, you'll see it. This is what happens when people just grab the narrative, want to make video content to get clicks or whatever, and throw it out there. So a lot of people. How many people watch that? 250,000 people watch that. I don't know how many agreed. I guess 13,000, but or at least that knew to hit the like button. But he, he could have poorly influenced people, and that's dangerous. That's what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse, right? After all, I sent her a link, so she's welcome to come. I told her I was going to do this tonight, and I did send her a link. Right? Let me see. Make sure I did that. Yes, I did. Okay, I see it right there. Oh, that's cool, Frog. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get her one right now. Whoa, don't go anywhere. I'm just make sure I got that taken care of. Okay, let me stop sharing this for 1 second. All right, copy that. Paste and go. Okay, she has it. So if she pops in, that'd be awesome. I've been wanting to do a stream with her, and at least have a conversation and talk. We kind of study similar things, right? So she's been really big into the, I guess I would call it targeted or one-to-one type of mind control. Really kind of like this, personality erasing, grooming, kind of things like that. And I have I've been focused on the mass mind control. So it's they do collide, and they do cross at some point, because there's a level of the mass mind control that puts people in a certain position to put themselves in the position, I guess, or be open to the more cultish like stuff. So we'll see. But what I wanted to show you too, this one is going to be this one right here is going to be kind of like, here we go. So if you guys watch Next News Network, Gary Franchi has this network, and I've watched him for many, many years. And Gary Franchi was Ron Paul guy. Did a lot of work with that. How do they keep finding me? He did a lot of Ron Paul's and or for him, for the cause, that is. And he's had this going for a while, right? And it's pretty good. You want to support new media and so on. But I've noticed kind of like over the years, it's kind of gotten away from things. I think I've kind of almost ignored it a little bit because it's sensational, clickbaity, repetitive, and in a sense, and it seems like right now it's really gotten lazy. And that's that's just criticism or an observation from somebody who would like to see them get back on track. So kind of like a little bit of that going on here in a sense that, well, also that it's misleading because you can see this guy right here. I'm not even sure who this is, but he basically, okay, here's the story. We're going to watch it. We'll watch it. And get ready. Pay attention to how he delivers this too. Pay close attention to this. Okay, real quick. How many people have gone to big concerts? Like just, put a Y in the chat if you have or and if no. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like big shows, like big outdoor shows, tons of people. People hanging out in the parking lot beforehand. Anybody gone to Fish, Widespread Panic, Grateful Dead, any jam band scene show, and go on up to different kinds of shows now because the whole lot scene's kind of spread out from the Grateful Dead and over the years. And so I don't know. I don't go to a lot of different shows anymore. And when I did, they were really specific. So I don't know much about other music genres lot scene. But I do know about the lot scenes. I do know what goes on there. So this is part of that. We can talk about favorite bands. Okay. See that picture? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Great scenery. I love to play that stage. It's a typical scene concert these days. Okay, was that necessary? I gotta say, do we really need to see the band's video? Does this help? Is it just like for extra time on the video? I don't know, man. I would say that's not important. But down with the stick, right? So does anybody go to the same festival every year? Like, does anybody have a one they're always at? Like, they know people that go there, they meet up. There's a lot of annual ones that are out there. It just depends on where you live, I guess. But if you do, let us know in the chat what that is. I'd like to hear about it. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna skip that. Skip that. Okay. You can't see the video? Oh, sorry, bud. Hold on. I didn't really. Okay, how about if I share the screen next time? All right. There we go. All right. So you didn't miss much, but let me show you what I'm talking about. Festival scene. Like right there, right? See it? Big stage. Grade down. Thousands of people. Okay, so right here. Start right here. And
Suspicions were raised when they saw the man inhale an unknown substance or gas from a balloon, so whip it, and then load.
Okay, I gotta stop right there. Okay, has anybody ever been in a lot? Thank you, I got it. Has anybody ever been in a lot where they with a party scene in it for a show, like any of the ones I was naming or something similar? Okay. If you have, you might know what's going on already. But if you haven't, I'm getting ready to turn you on to something you might not have heard of before. But the funny part is he called it like he's like an expert, right? This guy. No, it's just a balloon, right? But the whippets are like cartridge, like whipped cream cartridges or something like that. They have some kind of like device. They crack them, and this is different. This is a big tank like you get at your dentist's office. So much different.
2 9mm pistols from the trunk of his car. The man concealed one pistol in the rear of his waistband and the other in an outside the waistband.
Not quite lying.
The suspect later identified.
I'm going to tell you guys everything you need to know about this dude who got arrested.
R. Moody of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, approached.
I didn't catch he was from Pennsylvania the first time. Oh, dude, this is going to make a lot of sense about it. Let me just let this guy finish talking.
Asking what time the concert ended and where people would be exiting the venue. Moody did not make access inside the venue. Venue security detained Moody outside of the venue gates and disarmed him of the 2 loaded 9mm pistols. After investigating, deputies arrested Moody on suspicion of 1 count of possession of a dangerous weapon and 1 count of unlawful carrying or handling of a weapon. Moody was lodged in the Grant County Jail. The Friday night show sold out, which meant there were over 25,000 people in attendance. While weapons are not allowed at the Gorge Amphitheater, Moody's possession of weapons was not the sole reason for his arrest. The actions of Moody, such as inhaling an intoxicant, loading weapons in the parking lot, and asking where concert goers would exit, added to the suspicions of witnesses. In the Facebook post, the sheriff's office also reminded people to remember to stay vigilant, saying, remember, if you see something, say something. Citizens saw something completely out of place for the circumstances and notified security, who in turn notified deputies. That combination of situational awareness along with noticing something does not fit resulted in a possible tragedy being prevented. End of his statement. The full statement can be found on the Grant County Sheriff's Office Facebook. So the official Base Canyon team released a statement on their Twitter account saying, last night, a pistol-carrying local man was arrested after reportedly being seen outside the
I thought you said it was from Pennsylvania
parking lot. He did not have a festival wristband.
His Base Canyon's in Pennsylvania?
Attempting to enter the festival.
I thought it was like out west.
Our top priority. Thank you to the fans who reported him and the venue security and sheriff's department for handling the situation. Always look out for each other, stay safe, and remember, if you see something, say something. Team Base Canyon. People quickly reacted on Twitter.
We're almost out of this one. I just wanted you to close this out.
Others responded with sadness and
like
anger, expressing their fear that they could have been victims of a mass shooting. There's speculation that the man was not attempting to commit a mass shooting, but
speculation
instead was a drug dealer who had individuals selling for him on the inside.
Aha.
The man's
that's not true either.
For being at the festival are still unknown. The Grant County Sheriff's Office has not released any further statements on the matter.
Okay.
This situation is scary and underscores
the
importance of staying aware.
Okay, so that's all. Okay, so let's now here comes the big secret, right? Or the new information or the exciting part, however you want to frame it. So there's this. Okay, so people have been selling nitrous oxide balloons in concert parking lot for decades. All right. It's just that the in the last 20 years or so, maybe less, 15, 20 years. Okay. The people that have been selling it, they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money fast. Like they make serious money fast. Like it's over the top how much money these guys make. Right. And the guys who made the most money doing it, who like really hustled, I guess, they all live up in Pennsylvania. Right. So they formed this, what do you call it? A cabal or something like that. Right. But they are known as the Nitrous Mafia. And this is something that people that go to shows regularly know very well. But that's why I asked up front to see if anybody's gonna know this ahead of time. But okay, so they what they do is they send people into shows with tanks, right? And this guy obviously, or the scene obviously wasn't, or the people there maybe weren't used to seeing that. The reason why he had guns on him is because he carries a lot of money, right? And people try to rob the Nitrous Mafia. They try to like steal their tanks, steal their money, but then they don't. It doesn't turn out well for them because like they literally have people all over the place at those shows. So they have people that run tanks to other people that are in different locations. They usually set up by the exits. So that's why the guy was asking about the exits. But they also operate out of the back cars. You know, before the show, they're out there. And all you have to do to know if one of them's around is just listen, because you hear this. And you'll see a bunch of people, bunch of balloons go that way and a bunch of balloons go that way. Suddenly it looks like a parade, right? And so if the balloons lead back to where the lot rat is, the guy that's running the tanks, right? And then they have people come and run up to them, bring them new tanks, collect their money, run back to the main dude. This guy, they didn't charge him with any tanks, right? But he was doing a balloon in his car. And he wasn't going in the show. Luckily, how you want to look at it. But for him, he was not carrying the tanks. So yeah, and it is, you're right. Let me just clarify that too. Have you heard of him, Lion? Okay, they actually don't break into dental offices. They actually don't do that. They might have done it at one point. I think I remember at one point people like going around the back and getting into cages and stuff like that, hearing about that stuff. And the reason why I know, because I was a musician in the scene, so like a lot of shows to see bigger bands that I like, musicians that I liked, and also played festivals like this. So though they actually have nowadays, they actually have like contracts. They get it legally now, and it's just the selling part that's illegal. But they've been getting it legal for a long time. That's why the Nitrous Mafia expanded and gained power over everybody else trying to do the same racket. Right? Literally, there are places. I mean, just depending on where you live, that you could literally order. You can call a number or text or something like that and order it to your house. They'll come to your house with the stuff. So. Early 2000s and 90s, yeah, big time. Yeah, that was when they really started coming together. That's when they got the name the Nitrous Mafia. Not just kidding. I think that put this up. I gotta remember to do this. No, I think that's right. I mean, I think there were people doing that at one point, but I think that what happened was they found a way to get it legally, and they had already made so much money off of selling it lots, because they'll sell like, I don't know, I can't remember even what they would say. It was like, what, $5 a balloon in some places. This balloons only last like a couple minutes. But it's like people like immediately want to go back. And then you have people that are doing it too fast or doing too much and they're falling over. It's a big waste of money. They make a lot of money doing it, I'll tell you that. They make a lot of money doing it. And they all carry guns because they carry a lot of money, and they have a lot of, I guess what we call it, like they have a lot of their tanks with them, right? So they just got to watch out for it. But yeah, so the point here is, besides learning about the Nitrous Mafia, if you don't know about them yet, was to point out, this is supposed to be like base news right here. This is supposed to be something you can turn on and feel pretty good about them having done their due diligence and that they're telling you the truth. And that's all on Gary's reputation. This is it. Yeah. So, it's kind of a little disappointing to see that this is the state of their channel, where they're trying to put out stuff so fast that they just copy the establishment narrative. They did add more to it, I guess, but he didn't have enough knowledge about it or enough backing of people who had knowledge or research abilities to actually sound more intelligent on the matter, like to really understand what was going on. Calling the guy a drug dealer, I guess that you could call him a drug dealer, you know, him and the 10 people he was there with, all selling the same stuff out of the same places, but so they just go along with the idea that it's a mass killer and, it's scary times and all this other stuff like that. Right. I doubt that the reports that they kind of followed, they didn't go out there and question people. They had to go by someone else's reporting, and they probably didn't print the ones that said, "Oh yeah, man, this is the Nitrous Mafia. These guys get arrested all the time." They do. The guys are the ones that are running the tanks are the ones that are they put them out there to basically say, "Hey, look, you can make some money, but you might go to jail. You're gonna be out in the open and." Cops will watch. They'll send undercovers around, or they'll do something like that. The people who probably reported him probably just weren't used to seeing it, and were like, "Oh, this dude's loading a gun," and the guy's probably out of his mind too, running from state to state, festival to festival, show to show. Just it all starts to blend together. So, anyways, I thought that would be interesting to talk about, and also to kind of highlight the fact that no matter what news you're getting. If they're going with the early official story on these kind of things, they're probably not getting the full picture in for you. Whether it's like, something like Robert Creamer who actually did it, or something like this where it can be misled. It's more like just pushing the narrative that, mass shooters are everywhere. And I did leave them a comment about that. I was like, you guys got to tighten up, man. I'm getting ready to unsub from you guys, because not only that, there was a couple other ones in a row they did where I'm just like, dude, this isn't it at all. Like, this is not, you guys aren't researching anymore. You're just copying stuff and putting it out. So I hope they change their tune. I hope they get better and learn from it. Or if, maybe Gary just goes and does something else if he's too burned out to be diligent on the reports they're putting out. They put like 5-10 out a day. I don't know. Anyways, just to be something to be aware of. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it too. All right. Okay. So we see now kind of like looking at these stories tonight, like one after the other, the control of language and like what that means. I break it down to language because, it is the core of the information and the communication that we use. And also it includes words like, definitions of words and new words and things like that. And, I was thinking to myself one time, you can think about this too, that, what, if you could have like one power, like one kind of governmental power, like totally all yours, right? One thing that they have over everybody else, I guess. So you could say control currency, right? That'd be a good one to say. Yeah, I'd like to have that. That they control the currency or above the law, right? Or whatever it may be, the military or something. If you had the military, you could take over any place, or you could defend yourself against anybody. But I was thinking, man, probably the most powerful thing that they have is this control over language. And as we can see, oh, hey, yeah, what'd you say? Yeah, I'm waited to one. All right. Well, I mean, dude, I'm not talking, man, but I'm just peer review, man. I like to see them do better, but you got to watch the stuff that's like supposed to be based. If they're not doing their job, they're not doing their job. It's supposed to be anti-establishment, anti-establishment media content. And if they're just doing the same thing that they're doing, ridiculous, right? And that's the thing. Like, what irks me about all of it is that it's a covert abuse of people. It's manipulative, and it can cause repercussions, like we've seen before, that go in many different directions, not just towards harming others, but also towards keeping others from being harmed, by knowing the truth and being able to work on that, the real root cause of things. And, with the power of to control language, anything that anybody builds, you can overwrite it. Anything that's seems to be set in stone, or that has been, has existed for centuries, you could overwrite it. You could have people live in a little world where they don't know anything but what you tell them, and that's kind of what's going on now, right? So the power of information is the power to control minds on a mass level. That's the point of how Money Talks and can corrupt people for sure. Certainly. The and that's part of that's part of the I guess the process, right? You start by being corrupted by money, and then you are corrupted by power, and by then you're already all the way down the road. Hopefully, some people get out of that, but I don't know about that. Let's see, that one's not absolute. We can whisper to our neighbors. Oh, certainly. But if your neighbors think that the world's only as big as what the television tells them, or that these people are bad and these people are good, or that the biggest boogeyman out there is this. I think we all know that it gets a little difficult to speak to people that have strong belief systems like that, especially when they're false, because they're really clinging to them. If they're based in high emotion like fear, well, if I don't, they might get me. Not yet, right? Not yet. The new whisper monitors they installed. Whoa. I've heard of that, but I think they have them like street quarters. Now that's a good let me get rid of this guy. That's a good point. That's a good thing to talk about, because there's always going to be a counter, right? Have you noticed that they invented radar, we invented the fuzzbuster. They kind of probably the same company, right? So they come up with some way to do something, we come up with some way to get around it. That's been going on forever. So what about the market for spy block technology in the future? Where we can't be picked up by we're hacking the system from the outside, right? We're blinding the system. I often said, hey, the way to actually deal with the NSA data collection and all that other stuff that's going on is just to flood it. Like just flood it day in and day out constantly, this nonsense. Because then you overpower the algorithm and the sorting methods and all the different logic they have built into the system to sort the different data, right? And you system up. I don't know, that seems impossible because they just keep adding more and more and more, right? The reason when they can do that is because it's filling up at a rate that they can anticipate it. So if it was just spamming the same word over and over again from thousands of different places, it's filling up their databases constantly. All the other information kind of starts to get lost. Definitely needs some more specific kind of like architecting. But honestly, when it first came out, I was like, man, just start spamming stuff at them constantly. The more to sort, the harder it gets. The more then you have to start to sort out all the BS. But how do you sort out the BS from the real stuff when it looks just like it, right? So that's the way to kind of mess them up on that end. And then a condensed. What's it? I'm joking, but maybe not if you consider all the mics in your home. Oh yeah, definitely. I actually was talking about the how they do that too. It's similar. It's just workflows, logical workflows that are automated and triggered by words, right? That words that go into a data field. So the data field is looking at the text, and if the text matches or contains something, then it sorts it and puts it in this list or that list, right? It happens very fast, and then that list triggers new member triggers a campaign to run, right? So that's why if you say something and you have your Chrome open, and you have your mic on, you might be start to get ads for that right away. That's very sophisticated, right? People don't tend to worry about that as much as they do more things that could get them in trouble, right? Anything that would be used against them in court. That's what the real fear is. I don't think people mind so much having the ad that something they were talking about pop up, unless it's like really ridiculous. But if they're really I think the voice part of that is really kind of stupid. I mean, when people search, that's enough information to know what they're interested in. Then you can put ads up for that, help them out. But and to keep other ads that they're not interested in away. That's part of it too. Is like better targeting, cleaner experience, and so on. But anyways, the yeah, that would work. So the other part of that is, okay, so what about like cameras, IDs, vax, passports, things like that. Let's see, TikTok is a great example of CCP. Yeah, definitely. I would say so. And it's always hidden under something, right? It's the Trojan horse spying tech. But we're gonna have to, come find out a way to counter it, as time goes on, and then they'll upgrade, and we'll upgrade. Eventually, though, you're gonna be able to hide your identity in plain sight. Something that you're just wearing that causes a distortion when it's recorded, right? Or something that you're wearing that disrupts, microphones from hearing you clearly. Just who knows what it's gonna look like? But there'll be some like bad genius kid in a room somewhere, like designing this stuff, and moving it out. And then I guess in our country, as long as it's free, we could always buy it off of Amazon. As long as we have that option, right? So yeah, man, that's kind of crazy. But I always think about that, like what's the future going to look like? I always try to look ahead too with what I'm understanding at the time. Like, you never know if there's an opportunity there or just a way to kind of like see how things are going to go. So, anyways, that's fun to talk about. The okay. So, where are we at? Okay, good. We're doing good. Let's see, how long is this this one? Ooh, okay. Okay, we're gonna try to get through this. You guys ready to do the Yuri? Okay, hold on, I'll ask some more questions. What you got, Rick? How you doing, man? Hey, by the way, everybody, if you're subscribed, make sure the bell's rung because I'm super shadow banned, and we're trying to break that. I wish I had told like the 3,000 before that. Hey, make sure you just hit the bell. That might have been helpful at the time, huh? Okay. So how about the check needed using their version of Stuxnets? The check need used in their version. Okay. Oh, no worries. Oh, no worries. Yes. Well, okay. The Stuxnets, right? That's not like a day-to-day kind of data collection thing. That's and Stuxnets like a hard attack kind of like. Oh, it's Stuxnets. Isn't that is it the virus that shuts down or holds power plants and stuff hostage? Is that right? See, hold on. Let me look it up. I've heard it before. I know it. I just don't want to get it confused with something else because there's a few of these things. But you don't know it all. Okay, here's the wiki on it. Oh, malware. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, malicious computer worm. Okay, yeah. So it's a worm. It's that worm virus that goes from system to system, taking it over, eating it up. Let's see. The worm is likely a cyber weapon built jointly by the United States and Israel. Okay, yeah, okay. And collaborative effort known as the Operation Olympic Games. Hold on. Yeah, can you guys see this? Let me see. Let's share. Sharing. All right. In front of the mic. Here we go. So, specifically targets programmable logic controllers. Okay. Allows the automation of electromechanical processes such as those used to control machine. Okay, yeah. So take it over power plants, right? Typically introduced to an infected USB flash drive. Man, dude, that's hilarious. Hopefully, people don't still do that. Find that and think they found somebody's like cryptocurrency or something and stick it in their computer. Let's see. Yes, it's the virus we used against the Iranians and their nuclear. Okay. So yeah, that's. I think these are like tactical weapons. They're not so much. It's not so much something that we would think about like on a day-to-day basis, protecting our privacy from. So that's kind of like where we were, Rick. We were kind of talking about privacy and what kind of tech in the future like people could possibly come up with to kind of hide their information or hide themselves from all the surveillance. Because it's going to be a lot of it, and who knows, man? It could be our best friend. It could be our worst enemy. We've all seen what it could do if it's our worst enemy. But at the same time, I'm willing to put full surveillance in schools to keep pedophiles and shooters away from my kid, or our kids, everybody's kids. My kid doesn't go to public schools, but a lot of his friends and my family and other people do. So it's not, it's something we got to take care of. The idea is that, we take away their unsupervised access to kids, and then they don't want to be there. I have a video about that called "This Solution Will Fix Public Schools." I think that's what it is now. I've changed it like 3 times. What they are not saying is that they spread through the internet, all seeking a particular machine or millions of machines. Possible. I'm sure they're trying. I think that's why we have the fires and the updated virus definitions and so on, kind of keeping it at bay. If it does, I guess maybe things will get better. We can start all over again. Okay, so let's get going with Yuri, because this is good stuff here. We haven't seen this yet. Okay, so this is the interview portion of it. And just to catch us up, Yuri Bezmenov, known by his alias Thomas David Shubin, was a Soviet journalist for RIA Novista and a former PGU KGB informant who defected to Canada. After being assigned to a station in India, Bezmenov eventually grew to love the people and the culture of India. So he had he snapped out of it there. We know the rest of this. So this conversation here is with, they never put his name in here and all that stuff. Let's see what's going on here. Let me know if this sounds good.
I was born in a military family. My father was a high-ranking officer of the Soviet Army General Staff, inspector of land forces, stationed outside of USSR in every quote-unquote brotherly country or liberated country of the world. I graduated from Oriental Studies Institute, affiliated to Moscow State University in 1963. I started working with Novosti Press Agency, the biggest propaganda and ideological subversion organization of USSR, which is directly under KGB. Ostensibly, it's a public news agency. Novosti in Russian language means news, but there are no news. It's mainly propaganda. My first job was a translator with Economical Aid Group in India. We were building refineries and other industrial projects in public sector, socialist sector of India. My last job was press officer of the Soviet Embassy in New Delhi. I defected in 1970, landed in Canada, worked for several years as a producer of Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, overseas service in Russian language, similar to Voice of America. Then I was teaching at University of Toronto, Political Science Department, McGill University, Slavic Studies, and School of Journalism, Ottawa, in Carleton University in Ottawa. Last year, I joined a small Russian language publishing house here in Los Angeles, and now I'm a political analyst for weekly Panorama newspaper. Lumumba University language instruction was my so-called extracurricular activity, which is usually given to Soviet young communists as a non-paid job to prove loyalty to the party. I was instructing students from Asia, Latin America, and Africa before they entered an ideological indoctrination class. It was mainly Russian language instruction, after which the students usually join 2-year or 3-year extensive course in Marxist-Leninist ideological indoctrination, plus their own subjects of their choice, medicine, physics, chemistry, whatever. If after 5 or 6 years studying, they are proven to be, well, flexible, loyal, cynical enough to follow the Soviet foreign policy, they are being transferred to a KGB school for a period of 2 years, after which they are being dispatched back to their native countries and become so-called sleepers, the word from originated from sleeping. For several years, they sleep in their own countries doing nothing. Sometimes they're pursuing their own careers, become lawyers, doctors.
Okay, the idea of sleepers, right? This is the implementation phase of this, like first time in this country, right? But if you think about sleepers now, what would you think of? In terms of sleepers, then foreign agents, yeah, they're definitely sleepers. But in terms of using this by its own, by a country, by your, by it, past the Soviet Union and keeping it going, modernizing it, I would say the sleepers are kind of like individuals more so now that don't really know they're sleepers. Like I think that the rage kind of grooming that's going on, like slowly but surely making people more and more mad at Trump, right? Until it just blew up. And then this little bit puts them over the edge. And they're not that they're going to go out and do anything, just be angry, not be reasonable about it. Activate to cancel, activate to go along with things. I think it's kind of like yeah, right. Me too, definitely. And I think there's here you go. I think this still exists. I think they still exist, but I kind of think of the how things kind of just suddenly spring up around here lately. How suddenly there's these organizations out of nowhere. Those kind of things, like there has to be another level of that. But I just want to throw that out there and see what people thought.
Teachers, taxi drivers, barbers, and they spring into action after many years of destabilization of their own countries as Soviet agents. Therefore, all of a sudden you discover well-established lawyers in a country like Nicaragua who are, for some strange reason, are bitterly against quote-unquote American imperialism and idealistically for Soviet Marxist-Leninist imperialism. I joined Novosti Press Agency before I graduated from the Oriental Studies Institute, where I studied Hindi and Urdu, two languages of Indian subcontinent. Urdu is the language of Pakistan and Hindi is the language of India. The journalistic part of my training was ordinary journalism, mass media, communication theories and studies. Together with that, we had a very extensive training in military, civil defense, intelligence, and ideological subversion. So even before I graduated, I started working with Novosti Press Agency, first as a translator, interpreter, and guide with foreign delegations who were invited to USSR and who were shown all the beauties of socialism and dispatched back to their countries to explain to their people how beautiful is socialism.
Oh, sorry. I'm right here. Rick, I wanted to ask you about what names this method by, and the teachers of are many of these sleepers. Okay, so are you talking about sleeping, or are you talking about like what he was talking about? I might have got confused. You guys can't hear me? You guys can't hear me? Hold on. You guys, let's see. Yeah, I think I'm broadcasting. Yes, can you hear me? Nacho, can you hear me? running a little slow, I guess. All right. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, I just was curious if, like, if were you talking about the entire thing, or were you just talking about the sleepers themselves? Okay, we'll move on.
My role was directly linked with KGB activities of brainwashing and psychological assessment of these guests. If they showed any sign of flexibility, which means they showed that they were recruitable, I passed them over to professional KGB recruiters, and from there on, they were actively being involved in ideological subversion and propaganda, both in USSR and in their own countries. Well, decision, of course, was very painful and difficult. But on the other hand, I didn't have any illusions or illusions about the Soviet system and communist or socialist system. It's the most rotten and unworking system in the world. Some people call it state capitalism, socialism, centralized planning, whatever. It doesn't really matter what kind of name you attach to the system. Basically, if you're a religious person, it's a devilish, satanistic system which appeals only to the most primitive, negative side of human nature. The basis of that system is denial of private property, human dignity, and personal responsibility, and of course any religious affiliation of a human being to God as a supreme being. My dissatisfaction, disillusionment, if you can call it, because I never was illusioned with the communism, started as early as from age 6, I guess. The first shock was after the Second World War, when most of the children of my age understood that United States is the friend with whom together Soviet people defeated Nazism, German fascism, all of a sudden turned into American. But how could you explain to a child of 6 years old who owes his survival to American spam, condensed milk, egg powder, and things which you probably people never remember because nobody eats them these days, spam meat, you know what I'm talking about? How can you explain to them that these delicious things came from an enemy who wants to subvert and destroy us? It's impossible because the child remembers when he was hungry, he was eating spam and drinking condensed American milk with the American eagle on the label. So all the efforts of the Soviet propaganda to convince me that America is bad was futile, naturally. That was the first shock. The second was this 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party, when Khrushchev revealed the atrocities of Stalin, terrorism, and murder, systematic murder of millions of innocent people. That was another greatest shock. And the third shock, of course, when I was already grown up, a student, invasion into Czechoslovakia in 1968. That was the last point.
All right, check this out. So if you remember, like I think first or second stream, we're on number 3 now. We were talking about how people wake up in this world, in the United States, in this world. Basically, and we talked about like what events kind of shook us loose, gave us our moment of clarity, made us realize that we shouldn't put our trust in things that haven't earned it, really, like the media, for example, and political parties, for example, or politicians, you know. Oh yeah, me too, Rick. Definitely. This material is like over 10 years old, but it's still as important as ever, right? But here he's talking about his moments of clarity. He's talking about the things that woke him up from the other side, from the inside of the Soviet Union, as a boy, and later in life, and then as an agent. All these things shook him loose and shook loose the programming that had been there his entire life. That's, to me, gives me a lot of hope. And I think that was one of the things that really stuck out to me initially about this, is that he says that there's, he does give a way to kind of like when you can confront the different stages and how you do it. But he says once someone's, demoralized, there's no helping them. There's no getting them through to see that the information that they have is not true, and there's better information out there. That you do their due diligence, that you take their consent seriously. When they give it to something, they'll just give it away. Make sure that it is deserved. So, I think that the way that things usually work is that it can work in reverse that way, right? So, we can't give everybody a moment of clarity. We don't know who's going to have what, when, how, who. Because I'm always thinking like there may be just one way to totally kind of disrupt the false narratives all at one time to be more effective. I don't know. Things like that I'm still kind of trying to think about now. I think that the more you know, the easier the answer is to reveal. So I just kind of keep learning and thinking about it. Getting closer and closer, because there's more things we see now that are kind of starting to aid in the better understanding of how maybe we could, like if there's a what gets through. I think it's different for everybody. I told you guys that story about the J6 guy in it, right? The guy I played music with and stuff, that went from a TDS like poster child into going inside when he shouldn't have. Yeah, that was a major jump, and all I did was show him the video of Biden groping kids on C-SPAN, and never heard from him again. But evidently that did the trick, right? So there's always this one thing that maybe that that if the kind of, maybe it's personality type, I don't know, but if there's one thing that kind of turns somebody around. You may have a family member or a friend or somebody that that if they knew the truth, they would think and act differently, and they would kind of understand what you're saying, and be on your side about it instead of against you. That kind of thing, right? What's going to be their moment of clarity? I try to just check in on this moment of clarity are out there to see if any one of my friends that are just so asleep have woken up to. But so far I haven't seen any. Okay. Here we go.
And when I was in India acting as a Soviet official, a Soviet diplomat, I understood that sooner or later I have to defect and to explain what exactly I was doing in India. I fell in love with that country because at that time this country didn't do any harm to any neighbors, least of all to the Soviet Union. And yet we did so much harm to that country that I decided to defect and explain at first to Indians, then to American politicians, intelligence communities, and media. Unfortunately, I didn't have much success because my stories were treated with a great skepticism. I was called paranoid, McCarthyist, fascist, Cold War maniac, and other names which I don't want to mention here. And it took me quite a number of years to understand that I'm talking to people who are trying to prevent average American from knowing the truth about communism.
Sound familiar to anybody? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
The basic methods are not that much different from activities of any public relation officer from any big company. Say Coca-Cola, I bet they have their own department of public relations and press relations. But the ultimate goal, the ultimate purpose is different. If Coca-Cola wants to make profit and to sell more Coca-Cola to nations of the world, the Soviet Union, the ultimate purpose of the Soviet system is not to sell anything, least of all ideology, is to destroy the civilization on which the affluence and freedom based, and replace it with a system of total control over life of human beings, the system of total exploitation. That's the ultimate purpose. My specific measures, which I was forced to do, unwillingly of course, but I had to do them just to promote myself further.
Okay, real quick, just pointing out what he's describing. kind of what we have here, right? We talked about that in the last video. The bureaucracy that never does not change with elections, right? It's always there, the deep state, if you will. And kind of explain how that worked. But all that stuff, you think about how long it's been in part of our system, right? That the intelligence agencies and things like that, they're fairly new. They're from this century, and you know, in the current state that is, and then you know the power grab they have, you know, how much power they have, and how they filled this place, this seats with the people they wanted to. That is that's the thing. And see, he was back there in the day when they're saying, "Oh, remember the McCarthyism and the big red scare and all that stuff." You know, they were probably talking about him in a lot of this comments, right? Or like where those comments came from originally, where they said, "Oh, no, that was the deep state flexing right there, saying, no, you guys are all crazy, right?" Big red scare. So they target the wrong people and have this big to do about it, creating optics, and everybody's like, "Oh, we got to stop this. We got to knock it off," you know. And there you have it. So yeah, he's, you know, again, just kind of describing the predicting the future here, like giving out spoilers, if you will.
Further is bribery, corruption, befriending politicians, members of parliament, influential scholars, members of civil service, businessmen. In other words, anyone who has anything to do with shaping of public opinion in the interests of the Soviet foreign policy. That would include a long process, which sometimes is unnoticeable to an average person. It's a long-term process, which is called ideological subversion. It's unnoticeable as movement of a small hand of a clock. You know it's going around, but even if you watch it intensely, you don't see the movement. The eventual result is befriending these people and trying to get them involved in the activity in the interests of the Soviet foreign policy. The immediate impulse when I learned that the Soviet embassy, Department of Research and Counter-Propaganda, of which I was a deputy chief, is engaged neither in research nor in counter-propaganda. It is a department which is compiling information of private nature on individuals divided in two groups, good boys and bad boys. The sympathetic people were promoted in media and public life. The people who were opposed to the Soviet foreign policy were blackwashed, blackmailed, and destroyed, first morally and sometimes physically too. Understanding of what I was doing came to me when I looked through a press release of United States Information Service describing an incident in a South Vietnamese city of Hue, captured by communists from Hanoi for 48 hours. Then it was recaptured by United States and South Vietnamese armies. And to their horror, they discovered that within 2 nights, the communists could manage to round up more than 15,000 people and execute them. Most of these people were either sympathetic to United States or to the Western culture, or directly involved in activities supporting United States president in South Vietnam, agents of CIA naturally, even barbers because they know too much. They were executed, and United States intelligence couldn't figure out how could they possibly do it in such short period of time. Later on, they discovered, they found out from several defectors that long before communists occupied that city, there was an extensive omnipresent network of informers who knew exactly the addresses, the names, the whereabouts of each individual who was later executed. When I turned to my own files, I discovered that basically that information exists in my department. So it doesn't take much intelligence to understand what I was doing in India. I was compiling information. Comes revolution, these people would be executed. Indirectly, I was involved in a criminal activity, in mass murder. I decided to defect and explain it to Americans, and the response I already described. I was called a paranoid. But I decided to defect and try nevertheless. There's another long story. It's virtually impossible to defect in India simply because Indian government, under pressure from the Soviet government, if you can call them government. I don't call them government, I call them junta. they adopted a law as early as in 61 or 62, after Stalin's daughter defection especially. That law states that no embassy, no foreign legation on the territory of Indian Republic has the right to extend political asylum to any defector from any country, which is it's a masterpiece of hypocrisy. No other defector but a Soviet one needs a political asylum. If you are a Canadian or American, if you want to be nasty to your own government, the maximum you can do is just to pick up a phone and make a dirty phone call to your ambassador. Buy yourself a ticket and get lost. What happens to a Soviet defector under that law? If I knock a door of United States Embassy, by that law, the American diplomats have to turn me back to the Indian police, and Indian police takes me directly back to the Soviet embassy. And that's the end of my defection. So knowing that perfectly well and having contacts both with Indian police and American media corps, I understood that the only way for me was to disappear for a while. And the best way I discovered was to mix with a group of hippies. Mind you, that was the time I was 13 years younger, so I looked slightly different, of course. I studied so-called counterculture in India. Sometimes good, since
This is very interesting here. Many people out there believe that the whole counterculture movement here was completely manufactured. So the whole hippie movement and culture, style, down to a T. Now, I'm not sure how much of that was constructed outside of the framework. I would think that styles, trends, and preferences would have just formed naturally, and then they would adopt that as the style. But it's funny hearing him talk about the hippies because, you know, I spent a long time like believing that they were kind of anti-establishment. It's funny. That's how I kind of ended up in that scene. I didn't imagine my surprise. I think I told the story, but I was kind of like, wow, you guys are against the government. Imagine my surprise. But at least at one point, the ones that I knew were a lot more tolerant until the gas got turned up high on Trump, and then all bets were off at that point. All right, here we go.
Sincere young people who wanted to study Oriental mysticism and culture and religion, but most of them were simply easygoing individuals who were delighted with exotic life and the easiness with which they can purchase hashish and other drugs in India. And sometimes they traveled Indian subcontinent without any identification papers. So the best way to escape detection was to mix with the group of hippies and travel in India until the campaign in the media and in the police search will subside. All the newspapers in India carried my picture and announcement of the police that anyone coming forward with information about my whereabouts would receive 5,000 or 2,000 rupees. Knowing that perfectly well, I just walked in there barefoot with beads and blue jeans, smoking hash and enjoying life, until I found sympathetic journalists who smuggled me from India to Greece. Mind you, that was a military dictatorship at that time. Then only I approached American CIA, and they helped me to land in Canada as a legit, ordinary immigrant. So now I'm a Canadian citizen, as you can see from my patriotic tie.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought this was going to be. Well, this is great though. This is a part of the interview that a lot of people don't get to see, especially early on. This part was kind of missing. But there's also one where he's being interviewed, and that's kind of another one that's more well known. And I thought, he's sitting in that chair during the interview, so I thought that this was going to be it. But that means that we get to watch more another time. But we'll keep going.
Canada is a kind of middle of the road country where there are so many various ethnic groups that another a strange character who speaks both Russian and English and two Oriental languages. I didn't have any problem fitting into academic circles, and first being just a student at University of Toronto, and later a producer with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I think it was.
I didn't even know this was in here. This is a nice surprise. Who saw this movie? That it said the day after. If you saw it, give me a Y. If you didn't, give me an N. Or a 1 and a 2, however you want to do it. What you guys think? You remember the day after? Anybody? Anybody? Not your kitty. You remember it? Did you see it? Okay, so Rick saw it. All right. Anybody else see the day after? Remember that movie? Nope. Okay. I don't know if he catches you up on it or not. Not your kitty. But basically, this is like the biggest nuclear war scare movie ever made. And at the time it came out, it was absolutely terrifying. Oh, you would remember if you saw it. It's ingrained in the minds of everybody who ever saw it for life, for sure. Because it was the first real depiction on American television, primetime television, that showed a nuclear bomb going off and what would happen to our country in a very graphic way for its time if that happened. And it was very scary. It was very made you feel very powerless, and it was scary. I remember like watching it as a kid, and then like wanting to call my parents. That's like just kind of it was like, wow, it's almost like you didn't realize you were in that much danger, and then this movie kind of like really made you think that you were in constant danger. This is like during the Cold War, so hope a good rundown of it. But if not, definitely check it out because it's kind of a cultural kind of thing here in America. Not as terrifying as what this man tells his videos. That's true, right? That's true. If only they had played this instead, maybe it'd be a different place now.
Successful, and until and unless there'll be follow up to that movie, it will remain as an open wound in the United States as a scare tactic, which in this particular case, I'm not sure whether KGB paid for production of that movie or not, but it's totally irrelevant.
Okay, so yeah, that's why I stopped it right there. I don't know what he's going to say next, right? So you guys heard that. He basically just said what I said in a sense that, that anybody who saw it back then will remember it. Like it still sticks in your head as like what nuclear war is.
What is the most important, unless after seeing the tragic sequences of the nuclear attack, American population is not explained what to do about it. If you still stop at that and let it be, obviously, this is the scare tactic. This is the greatest harm done to United States by Americans, by American filmmaker. I bet Andropov and all his disinformation system could not possibly do that much harm to the United States. When you see something obviously sponsored by the Soviets, you understand, well, this is propaganda. You may or may not agree with this depending on your background and intelligence and education. But here it's a subtle approach, playing on the most sensitive strings of your soul, appealing to the most basic instincts of human nature, survival. But there are no answers. How to survive? Well, obviously, disarmament is not the answer, simply because some people naively expect Andropov to blush out of shame and reduce the number of warheads. It doesn't happen this way. We are facing unresponsive, irresponsible group of people for whom nuclear war is not a theory, it's a practice, and the military strategy of the Soviet Union is designed to do nuclear war and to survive and possibly to win. I started my military training when I was 6 or 7 years old, when I entered secondary school. And I graduated in '63 after almost 15 years of continuous training as a junior lieutenant of reserve of the Soviet Army. And psychologically, every Soviet citizen is well prepared for war, nuclear war. And technically, he is equipped with facilities and the knowledge how to use it in case of war or natural disaster, doesn't matter. Survival tactics and survival methods are taught extensively in various manners. They are exposed to documentary movies about nuclear war. They know the technical data of radiation or contamination of air and land. They know the organizational patterns of civil defense to such an extent that even if there's no nuclear attack, even if there's a conventional warfare, each individual at a certain time knows exactly where to go, what to do, where is the shelter, whom to call by telephone, which is not the case, unfortunately, in the United States. I think if a bomb, ordinary bomb, maybe a stink bomb is dropped in the middle of Los Angeles, most of the people will not die of atomic radiation. They will die of panic. They will run, and the traffic jams and the panic will kill more people than anything else. And where do they go? Is there any literature about how to protect an individual? Is the medical first aid treatment? It's not taught to kids in American colleges, unfortunately. For example, there's obvious tension in the world. Television newscasts inform American family about happenings in East and West Germany. And only at the last moment, they decide to bring the canned food down to the basement. It's sheer idiocy. Why not to have them in the basement at peacetime? Number two, there's very realistic picture of what happens when the first nuclear bomb strikes a big city, Kansas City, I think. And people start, a big panoramic picture shows almost an anthill when people are disoriented totally. That would produce love in Russia, because unlike that, Soviets know exactly what to do. There'll be much less panic, if at all. I know about infiltration of KGB into peace movement probably as much as an average American who reads newspapers systematically. But I'm aware that the World Peace Council is a front organization of the KGB. Ramesh Chandra, I know personally, both in India and USSR. I worked with delegations of various peaceniks who came to the World Congress of Peace Council in Moscow. I think it was in 1961 or 62. Yeah, it was before Cuban crisis. And at that time, they struck me as people who are pathologically unable to see the truth, not to talk about the military aspects. When as a translator and a guide, I used to take them to places in Moscow which are not supposed to be for foreigners' eyes. They didn't want to see it. They had their preconceived ideas. They were suffering from self-importance. They thought it's a great honor to sit in the Kremlin, in the Palace of Congresses, next to a debil from Kremlin. And
sound familiar? A lot of this is history repeating itself right now. In certain ways, modern not changed the players a little bit, and you kind of see the same thing going on.
Talk about peace as if that person from Politburo means anything in peace movement. Self-delusion is the most predominant phenomenon among these people. Ramesh Chandra is a very shrewd politician who takes advantage of naive, misguided, idealistically minded, sometimes sincere people. But he is, my impression is that he's totally sold himself to the Soviets. He receives his payments or royalties or whatever you can call it in the form of prizes. Of course, it's very embarrassing if you approach a person of his caliber with money, with cash, and say, "Here, Comrade Ramesh Chandra, there's a money for your propaganda in the interests of the Soviet Union." It's very unpolite. So instead, the Soviet Union creates artificial international bodies such as Jawaharlal Nehru Peace Committee, which consists of various progressive leaders, writers. Sometimes they're known figures and philosophers.
Just want to welcome anybody that just joined the stream. We're doing the Yuri watch along right now. This is the second one we've done, and we're just kind of reviewing what he had to say and comparing it to what we see today. And appreciate you stopping by. Please, if you would give the video a like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell. I am really shadow banned. That's why we are here together in the Valley of the Shadows.
Educationalists. Sometimes they probably feel that if there's no other possibility to express the desire for peace, at least there is some legitimate overt activity where they can express themselves. That's okay. And they think they are too smart not to see that part of it is Soviet propaganda. Okay, we are smart. We are not going to allow them to use us for propaganda purposes. This is wishful thinking, because after 5 or 6 visits to USSR, everything is paid by the Soviet government. After spending several vacations on a Black Sea coast in luxurious atmosphere with 2 or 3 nice girls, interpreters, lots of vodka and caviar, books published, vapid books which nobody reads in the United States, all of a sudden published in millions of copies in USSR in various languages, that tickles their ego. They think they're somebody's all of a sudden. It's difficult to resist the temptation. Ramesh Chandra is exactly that type of personality. He was approached at a very early stage, and he didn't have willpower and moral principles to resist the temptation, to resist the approach. And by now, he's just a pawn in the game.
There you go. There's circling back to the theme of the night, huh? Talking about the malleable individual, the perfect target to be brought in to corrupt ideas and corrupt actions, and to be demoralized and disillusioned into a new reality.
High-ranking pawn, and if he is dismissed or dies natural death, there will be another, the line of people who would like to take his place. Yes, KGB takes very active part in the peace movement, and if these people were sincere, as they say they are, they would start demonstrating in Kremlin, or I mean in Red Square, not in Washington, D.C., or in the Central Park in New York or in Los Angeles. But they don't have courage, they don't have guts to go to Russia and protest against the nuclear armament of the Soviet Union. Therefore, I agree that they are misguided, but I think they are cowards. They're unprincipled, dishonest people. And there's no justification that they are misguided or poorly informed. It's their fault that they're poorly informed. There's enough information, there's enough possibility. In case of United States citizens, there's enough freedom to do what their consciousness should tell them to do. Go to Russia and protest against armament. It doesn't take much courage to take part in demonstration in Los Angeles. But if you're really genuinely concerned about peace, tell it to Brezhnev, tell it to Andropov, and we'll see how courageous and sincere you are. They don't do it. Well, the greatest strength, I think, is the basic principle of American democracy, common sense, and the the value of the principles of private property and respect to human dignity and individual rights. The weakness is the permissiveness and lack of moral stamina, which, if you are a religious person, could be interpreted as probably alienation from religion, alienation from God. Thinking too much in materialistic terms, thinking in short span of time for pragmatic advantages, disregarding the perspective of civilization. Some philosopher, I forget his name, I was a bad student in Moscow, said that the level of civilization is in direct proportion to the time span that human being thinks in future, for future. The least civilized people live today, this minute. The more civilized nations think about tomorrow, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. Well, this is one of the definitions of... Unfortunately, Americans are made to think in shorter and shorter time span terms. This is the greatest weakness. So therefore, enjoy life and make love, not war. I think that willpower and revitalization of traditional moral values and principles is the most desirable thing now, today. The sooner the better. The things, the principles and values on which the affluence and success of American civilization depends and based upon should be immediately revitalized and brought back to school programs, to media, and let's face it, propaganda. I'm not afraid of this word, unlike the left liberal journalists who think, oh, well, it's propaganda. I don't see anything wrong in propagating the basic moral principles and values on which America is built. Willpower, faith, unshakable faith that this country, this civilization is right and the enemy is wrong. No amount or no number of nuclear warheads and no size of the army will help United States to survive, whether there's nuclear war or conventional warfare. Vietnam proved very clearly that with all the technology, with all the supersonic bombers and napalm and whatnot, electronic gadgets and cold beer and Coca-Cola, you cannot defeat an enemy unless you are fighting and have faith in the righteousness of your fight. So that's the most urgent thing, I think. Wake up and convince yourself that you're on the right side. There should not be no neutralism or objectivity. Or objectivity is good when you are discussing philosophical concepts. In today's world, if you are neutral, you are already an enemy.
2 points there. First, to point out that what he was talking about is some people call it like the bully's dilemma, you know, where they start to fight and then they lose the fight because some part of them knew that, you know, they were in the wrong for doing it. The other part, last part here.
It's propaganda. I don't see anything wrong in propagating the basic moral principles and values on which America is built. Willpower, faith, unshakable faith that this country, this civilization is right and the enemy is wrong. No amount or no number of nuclear warheads and no size of the army will help United States to survive, whether there's nuclear war or conventional warfare. Vietnam proved very clearly that with all the technology, with all the supersonic bombers and napalm and
Sorry, I went back a little too far.
Electronic gadgets and cold beer and Coca-Cola, you cannot defeat an enemy unless you are fighting and have faith in the righteousness of your fight. So that's the most urgent thing, I think. Wake up and convince yourself that you're on the right side. There should not be no neutralism or objectivity or objectivity.
Yeah, here's the next part right here.
Discussing philosophical concepts. In today's world, if you are neutral, you are already an enemy.
Yep. Okay, that's the other point. And this is something I've been saying for a long time, like with non-votes, right? Like a non-vote is a vote for the establishment, right? If there's a choice on the table that's anti-establishment. A lot of Ron Paul supporters just understood that, you know, and as well as Trump supporters as well, you know. But there are a lot of people that didn't realize that they might have not realized that, you know, there was a vote against the things they didn't like, but they just didn't like the guy to vote for. And that, you know, you have to kind of look at things, like you said, in a broader picture in order to understand that as long as the person's the enemy and the enemy of the establishment, you know, your vote needs to go against the establishment on all things. And that when you don't vote, it's like you just take a vote away from your side, of which, you know, that side needs the votes. It needs overwhelming votes in order to be able to even get into these offices. So, you know, a non-vote is a vote for the establishment at this point. Tea Party too in the beginning. Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. You are the enemy. Yeah, it's like the it's the analogy in the Matrix in the beginning when Neo's walking through the simulation. You talk about, like, yeah, all these people, you know, then maybe your friends, maybe people, you know, innocent looking people, whatever. But, you know, they're all plugged in. So as long as they're plugged in, they're part of the enemy. It's like, that's the sad part. And that's why people have spent a lot of time trying to reach their family and friends. It's like, you feel like you're leaving some people that you care about behind in the hands of, you know, the worst thing on earth. And, you know, as hard as you try to pull them out, as hard as they push back. And yeah, that's part of it, right? So that is the truth. And I did say this 10 years ago when things were a lot calmer as far as, you know, in society between political beliefs and parties and whatnot. I did say the day will come, you're going to have to choose a side. It's going to be, are you with the establishment or are you against them?
Of your own country. You have to actively take part of your country, your side. One of the reasons of my defection is that I took side. I was decided to take part, to take choice, to make my own personal choice. For some strange reason today, it's very fashionable. It's considered to be an intellectual chic not to take sides. Academic media, academic circles, Hollywood stars, politicians, they think it's very fashionable, it's intellectual to be non-allied, non-committed, neutral. It's not intellectual, it's suicidal.
How many people do you know like that?
Suicidal.
How many people that you guys know that that just think they don't need to care, you know, that they can just keep going along, not important, it'll get worked out, someone will take care of it, nothing bad ever happens to us. I mean, just every excuse in the world to keep the normacy the way that they know it. And I did talk about the happy-go-lucky people before, but the ones that have had really good lives and things have gone their way, and you know, they had a lot of success. You know, they don't want to see the world change. This is the world that gave them all that. They fear that if the world changes, that they won't top. They won't be able to have this great, easygoing, everything goes my way kind of life. But what they don't realize is if they don't do something, they don't change things themselves, they don't wake up and care, they're not going to have it anyways.
Okay, I'll start with a short explanation. I'm going to show you some slides now. The things that you're going to see, there's nothing new actually. They're reproductions from various media organs in the United States, USSR. Probably you see these pictures 100 times a day. I'm going to give you a different viewpoint on the same things, same facts that you see, and probably don't take much trouble to understand and think what you are seeing. I don't know if you heard my introduction. I'm an ideological subverter, yes, from Russia. Okay. Okay, it's the idea of showing the slides to you is just to provoke questions in your mind, and later on, if you still have patience with me, I will explain how exactly the system of ideological indoctrination and subversion works. Well, we know that we are living in a time of peace, and we know that recent walkout from the Geneva talks by the Soviets is centered around the nuclear arms and rockets. We don't see much about the Soviet preparedness, a Soviet viewpoint on the military strategy. Well, this is a selection of pictures, only pictures. Confucius said that one picture tells more than 1,000 words. These pictures are from everyday newspapers in USSR. This is what a Soviet citizen looks upon every day. Basically, this is a militaristic spirit, pictures of foreign delegates observing the rockets passing the Red Square. The idea of invasion, unlike in the United States, is not being criticized by the Soviet media at all. On the contrary, it's being forcefully encouraged from the age of, say, 5 or 6 years, 6-year-old. Every Soviet student or schoolboy has to go through military training. This is a picture from a special military school where young.
Okay, looks like they don't have the slides in here, this part. And then it looks like from here, it goes right into what we saw last time. So I think that we got 24 minutes until Cool Frog. That's right. Is going to start his stream, and let's all hang out, and we'll just go over there. But in the meantime, we'll find the maybe we can find the other part of this, and or we can find the interview, sit down interview part, which is really good. And I think we have a perfect amount of time for that. So let me try to find that. I'll take this off for a second so you can talk here. Do I have to? Can I make polls in here? I got stuff to find out. I mean, I'll learn about this stuff. But real quick, I already have some of this up. Let me see if I can find a better version of this. And we'll go from there. All right. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. This is the one I'm talking about. This is okay. Now I see. Now I see. Here. I'll be almost there. This part's really good. Oh, did you guys hear that? Random lightning strikes today here in GA. Yeah, expand this. Okay. Funny. All right, here we go. Share. Share. I like the first slide. Okay. You guys ever heard of that corporation? Probably had a business now, huh?
My father was, he's on the left here. My father was officer of the General Staff of the Soviet Army. He was inspector of land forces, Soviet troops stationed in countries like Mongolia, Cuba, East European countries. This is the picture taken at the entrance of my Institute of Oriental Languages. It's a part of Moscow State University. As every Soviet student, I was, quote unquote, volunteering for harvesting grain in Kazakhstan. By the end of my training in school, I was recruited by the KGB. This picture was taken on that day, and you can see again how happy it feels to be recruited by the KGB. Pay special attention to number of bottles on the table. One of my functions was to keep foreign guests permanently intoxicated the moment they land at Moscow airport. In 1967, the KGB attached me to this magazine, Look magazine. A group of 12 people arrived to USSR from the United States to cover the 50th anniversary of October Socialist Revolution in my country. From the first page to the last page, it was a package of lies.
Take that 80s music. G. Edward Griffin, same guy who wrote
Conversation is with Mr. Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov.
Monster Jekyll
Mr.
Island.
Bezmenov was born in 1939 in a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. One of his interesting assignments was to brainwash foreign diplomats when they visited Moscow. And he'll tell us a little bit about how they did this and how they planted information which eventually wound up in the press of the free world. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Mr. Bezmenov, I'd like to begin by having you tell us a little bit about some of your childhood memories.
Well, the most vivid memory of my childhood was Second World War, or to be more precise, the end of the Second World War, when all of a sudden, United States, from a friendly nation, which helped us to defeat Nazism, turned overnight into a deadly enemy. And it was very shocking because all newspapers were trying to present an image of belligerent, aggressive American imperialism. Most of the things that we were taught is that United States is aggressive power, which is just about to invade our beautiful, free socialist country, that American CIA is dropping Colorado beetles on our beautiful potato fields to eliminate our crops. And each schoolboy had a picture of Colorado bug on the back page of his notebook. And we were instructed to go into collective fields to search for those little Colorado bugs. Of course, we couldn't find any, neither we could find many potatoes. And that was explained again by the encroachments of the decadent imperialist power. The anti-American paranoia, hysteria in the Soviet propaganda was to such of such a higher degree that many less skeptical people or less stubborn would really believe that United States is just about to invade our beautiful motherland, and some secretly hope that it will come true.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Well, getting back to life inside the Soviet Union or inside communist countries in general, in this country, at the university level primarily, we read and hear that the Soviet system.
What's the CIA interview? Like with Yuri? Or just a different guy?
Inside the Soviet Union or inside communist countries in general. In this country.
Oh yeah, that's the part. Nobody thinks about that when they're running around promoting Marxism and saying, you know, we can blend this and that together. And you know, if it was ever to go full blown that direction, that you know, these conditions might repeat themselves, right? If not under an uncorrupt and benevolent leadership.
At the university level primarily, we read and hear that the Soviet system is different from ours, but not that different, and that there is a convergence developing between all of the systems of the world, and that really it doesn't make an awful lot of difference what system you live under, because you have corruption and dishonesty and tyranny and all that sort of thing. From your personal experience, what is the difference between life under communism and life in the United States?
Well, life is obviously very much different for simple reason that the Soviet Union is a state capitalist economically. It's a state capitalism where an individual has absolutely no rights, no value. His life is nothing. It's just like an insect. He's disposable. Whereby in the United States, even the worst criminal is treated as a human being. He has a fair trial, and some of them capitalize on their crimes. They publish their memoirs in their prisons and get handsomely paid by your crazy publishers. The differences, of course, in the daily life are very various, depending on whom we are talking about. In my own private life, I never suffered from communism simply because I was brought up in a family of high-ranking military officer. Most of the doors were open for me. Most of my expenses were paid by the government, and I never had any troubles with the authorities or with the police. So in other words, I would say I enjoyed, or I had good reasons to enjoy all the advantages of so-called socialist system. My main motivations to defect had nothing to do with affluence. It was mainly moral indignation, moral protest, rebellion against the inhuman methods of the Soviet system.
Well, specifically, what did you object to?
I objected, first of all, against oppression of my own dissidents and intellectuals. And that was the most disgusting thing that I witnessed as a young man, young student, who was brought up a very troublesome period in our history, from Stalin to Khrushchev, from total tyranny and oppression to some kind of liberalization. Second, when I started working for the Soviet embassy in India, to my horror, I discovered that we are millions times more oppressive than any colonial or imperialist power in the history of mankind. That my country brings to India not freedom, progress, and friendship between the nations, but racism, exploitation, and slavery. And of course, economical inefficiency to this country. Since I fell in love with India, I developed something which by KGB standards is extremely dangerous thing. It's called split loyalty, when an agent likes a country of assignment more than his own country. I literally fell in love with this beautiful country, a country of great contrasts, but also great humility, great tolerance, and philosophical and intellectual freedoms. My ancestors used to live in caves and eat raw meat when India was a highly civilized nation 6,000 years ago. So obviously the choice was not to the advantage of my own nation. I decided to defect and to entirely dissociate myself from that brutal regime.
Mr. Bezmenov, we've read a lot about the concentration camps and the slave labor camps under the Stalin regime. Now the general impression in America is that those things are part of the past. Are they still going on today, or what is the status?
Yes. There's no qualitative change in the Soviet concentration camp system. There are changes in numbers of prisoners. Again, this is unreliable Soviet statistics. We don't know how many political prisoners are there in the Soviet concentration camps, but we sure know from various sources that at each particular time, there are close to 25 to 30 million of Soviet citizens who are virtually kept as slaves in forced labor camp system. The size of the population of a country like Canada is serving terms as prisoners.
Incredible.
So
Think about that for a second. All of Canada in a prison camp. That's crazy.
So I would say that those intellectuals who try to convince American public that concentration camp system is a thing of a past are either conscientiously misleading public opinion, or they are not very intellectual people. They're selectively blind. They lack intellectual honesty when they say that.
Well, we've spoken about the intellectuals in this country and also the intellectuals in the Soviet Union. What about down at the broad mass level? Do the people in general, the working people, the workers in general in the Soviet Union, do they support the system? Do they tolerate it? What is their attitude?
Well, average Soviet citizen, if there is such an animal, of course, does not like the system because it hurts, it kills. He may not understand the reasons. He may not have enough information or educational background to understand. But I doubt very much there are many people who are uh, conscientiously supporting the Soviet system. There are not such people in USSR. Even those who have all the reasons to enjoy socialism, people like myself, who were a member of journalistic elite, they also hate system for different reasons, though, not because they lack material affluence, but because they are unfree to think, they're in constant fear, duplicity, split personality. And this is the greatest tragedy for my nation.
Well, what do you think are the chances of the people actually overcoming their system or replacing it?
There is a great possibility that system will sooner or later be destroyed from within. There is a self-destructive mechanism built into any socialist or communist or fascist system, because there is lack of feedback, because the system does not rely upon loyalty of population. But until this Soviet junta is being supported by the Western so-called imperialists, that is, multinational companies, establishments, governments, and let's face it, intellectuals, so-called academia in the United States is famous for supporting the Soviet system. As long as the Soviet junta will keep on receiving credits, money, technology, grain deals, and political recognition from all these traitors of democracy or freedom, there is no hope. There is not much hope for changes in my country, and the system will not collapse by itself simply because it's being nourished by so-called American imperialism. This is the greatest paradox in history of mankind, when capitalist world supports and actively nourishes its own destroyer, destructor.
I think you're trying to tell us something
Oh,
in this
yes.
country.
I'm trying to tell you that it has to be stopped unless you want to end up in Gulag system and enjoy all the advantages of socialist equality. Working for free, catching fleas on your body, sleeping on planks of plywood in Alaska this time, I guess. That's where Americans will belong, unless they will wake up, of course, and force their government to stop aiding Soviet fascism.
Well, you told us a moment ago why you left the system. I'd like to hear the details of how you did it. It must have been a very dangerous thing.
It was not so dangerous, it was crazy. First of all, because defecting in India is virtually impossible, thanks to very strong pressure from the Soviet government.
Excuse me, you were in India on assignment at that
Yes,
time.
I was working for the Soviet embassy in New Delhi as a press officer. And defecting for a Soviet diplomat is next to impossible. It's a suicide, as I said, because a great friend Indira Gandhi pushed a law through parliament which says, and I quote, "No defector from any country has a right of political asylum in any embassy on the territory of Indian Republic," which is a masterpiece of hypocrisy. No other defector but the Soviet one needs a political asylum. So knowing that perfectly well, I planned a craziest possible way to defect. I studied counterculture in India. There were thousands of young American boys and girls with no shoes, long hair, smoking hash and marijuana, studying sometimes Indian philosophy, sometimes simply pretending that they studied. And they greatly annoyed Indian police, and they were laughing stock of Indians because obviously they were good for nothing students. I studied carefully where they congregate, what routes they travel, what language they speak, what do they smoke. And one day I simply joined a group of hippies to avoid detection of Indian police. I was dressed as a typical hippie with blue jeans.
Okay, we heard this part earlier. It's a good stopping point. for this part of it. You can see there's still a lot left, so we'll do that next time. I promise. I'm going to be streaming more often. Don't go nowhere because I got something here. We're not done yet. But I'm going to do like midweek and during the week and during the weekend. Just kind of build them up as I get things going more smoothly and get more used to it myself. I tend to do better like having conversations with people than being on my own. And I also tend to do better if I actually can hear myself like monitor wise, but I don't think that's going to be possible. However, let me just right. And then here in a minute we're going to go over to Cool Frog, but hang tight because I got a great way to send this out. Just to kind of see the now like I said, I've known this material for a long time, but I used to try to spread it, and it was very difficult to get people to listen or watch it. It's too long. It's it's too old. I don't want to watch it. It's not the mainstream media or something. But definitely Tam. But seeing how much more prevalent and accepted it is today is really, really, it's really feels good because I know what a great red pill Yuri is for people. It definitely was for me. I mean, you knew something was wrong. Maybe you didn't trust the media, but then you see how it's all being done and it answers so many questions. Even if it's not exactly to the T, the process is still there and it's timeless. So anyways, just to kind of celebrate how far it's come, when I saw this, I got and thought it was a great way to get the message out.
Understand what's going on around you. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself. It's a slow process, which we call active measures. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. With a violent change of power, structure, and economy, period of normalization. This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfilled or not. The disaster is coming closer and closer. The danger is real.
Whoa. That was really cool when that came out. I was like, wow, Yuri's finally made the big time. That guy would be so popular today if he was alive. He'd be like the most in-demand guy ever, So just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed, you like the stuff, please subscribe, ring the bell. I'm getting used to saying that. Just get good at it, guys. I know you guys are probably all subscribed. I appreciate it. Also, the new Discord, please join the Discord so we talk in between. Let's see. One more thing. We're gonna be going here in a minute, but I figure we'd take the last couple of minutes to talk and hang out, questions, fun stuff. So, what you got? Definitely more Yuri. Like I said, I want to go through after we watch all these and kind of like update the. I'm just watching the show. I'm like, was I there? The show. This is one of the bands I used to go see a lot play. I've actually worked with these guys. I don't know if you guys know who Widespread Panic is, but enjoy it. It's good stuff. I want to read you those papers. That he wrote up and that are in his. And so I want everybody to help. I want everybody to be part of that. We can all do it together. More heads together, get better things done. Yeah, we'll go through. I clipped most of them. Got good, clear copies of them. So, and I got a few other things too. I just didn't have them out and ready today. I guess it's a good thing I didn't because I wouldn't have been able to show them. I have to figure out how this StreamYard thing's gonna work a little bit better. But I guess I got some time, huh? I talked about trying to get Philly on for a one-on-one. We'll deep dive into like the new modern kind of like mind control techniques. How everything like I talk about kind of spawns off the subversion framework. So I would say I have the subversion filter when I look at things, and then that way I can kind of tell where it fits in, I guess. But it's like once you know subversion, you kind of see it that way as it goes. When I see some media manipulation, someone sees government corruption or corporate corruption, I see subversion, and at the root of it, that's where it came from. This is one of those bands that would have the Nitrous Mafia in the parking lot, by the way. From our earlier conversations. Okay, so I need to figure out how to get us over to Cool Frog. I saw the thing on here, so while we sit here and listen, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do this. Let's watch together. We're at the show. Let me see. Okay, so I saw it on over here on this side. Man. Settings maybe. All right. Jojo Herman. Michael Hauser, he passed away in 2002, unfortunately. He has a really unique style of playing. He uses a volume pedal to do vibe swells. Okay. How do I... like how you get it? I swear I saw how you could just change this over easily earlier. I gotta send him somebody. Oh, jeez. Oh, here it is. That's it. Widespread Panic's the name, Rick. How do you do this? Oh no, that's what I was supposed to have it ready to go by now. I don't know how to get it go over there. Well, start the stream the way it end it the way it started, complete chaos. I don't know how to make it go over to the next thing. See, hold on. You're alive, you.
You couldn't tell we're very happy to be here tonight.
Oh man, what the heck? I don't know how to do this. Let's see. I mean, I haven't figured it out yet. Well, there you have it. Let's see. How do we do this? I swear there was a way to move our stream over there or send people over there. Is it on maybe is it on YouTube? I don't know. Oh, okay, I'll have to do it next time. Yes, I can. If you guys have a second, I'll look around. I don't want to hold people up. My looking around trying to figure this out. Okay, here we go. Okay, edit. Okay, hold on. Stop. Customize. Redirect. Okay, here we go. I got it. I got it. Other channel. Should have done this earlier. Okay, so how do you find this channel? You search it. You don't have any redirect privileges. Oh man, he has to set it up. Okay, well, I'll let him know. And thank you guys for being here tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and helping me get through the rough times here and get started and spun up. It'll just keep getting better, I promise. And hopefully we'll talk to you on Discord and see you very soon in the upcoming week. All right. You guys take care and have a good night, and see you next time. Bye. Time.